So guys, today we're going to be going live with our LadderHero tournament, and we already have our first game loaded up. All of these maps that you'll be seeing today are going to be ladder maps. Now, Mr. Barrel, how often do you play ladder?
I haven't played in a while, to be honest, because I am back on my old laptop, which can't really handle the game, as I mentioned to you before. I used to play about like a day, every day or so. Then finals, then I had to switch to my laptop. When I get my new rig, I'm gonna be smashing. I'm gonna be consumed by Age of Empires 4.
That's the way we like to hear it. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like whenever I make these noises, I just need to shut up. But guys, what we're going to be doing is we're going to go into the game pretty quickly because we already have our first game. Now, we have Gullyd versus Corvinus, which is going to be one of our first matches here. We're going to get the bracket up for you right after this. So let's hop on in with Mr. Gullyd and Corvinus. And now, keep in mind, the ladder maps. This is what we're going to be learning from. And hopefully, this is going to be an easier one for us to learn from, I think. So, guys, Corvinus and Gullyd. I know Corvinus has said he's a little bit sick today. So, let's see if the sickness will consume him on a map that has consumed me. Ladies and gents, let's hop into game one. Now, Mr. Barrel, do you want to go ahead and introduce the boys?
Well, after that awesome introduction, to be honest, to the east side on the color green, playing as Zone Dog, we have Corvinus, who's starting off with eating some delicious ship. While on the west side of the map, playing as Zeus's Legacy, we have Gullyd, who's also eating some ship.
Yeah, no, both of these civilizations, no big surprises here. Now, in the most recent patches, we've been seeing a lot of shenanigans in the early game with absolutely nothing but scouts. So, with Gullyd3ck3l now playing Zushi, which honestly, I'm very surprised that anyone allowed Zushi through, because Zushi has been seen as a very strong pick at the moment. Gullyd now getting Zushi, we are very aware that Himayama can be a very good professional scout map, and we can see these deer packs, just like every Himayama game, spawning on each side, making it very easy to go snack on a few of those bad boys. But now, JD, she also likes the professional scout. So, how do we feel about JD in general, Mr. Barrel? If you see JD on your ranked games, what's the first thought that goes into your heart?
Well, to be honest, when I see JD, especially if she's at least level 2 and actually fighting and participating in the game, my immediate thought is just right click her and like kaboom her, because I do not like that +4 that she's getting right now. I do not like the EXP. When she levels up and becomes quite strong. And also, apart from hunting deer, especially in level 2, she likes hunting boars as well. And I cannot exactly see the map, but actually, where are the boars? Oh yeah, they're quite far, but she can snack on them later. She has time.
Now, what we usually see when we're looking at an age up like this, we saw JD, she was hammering away very much solo at the start. So, with that, we know that Corvinus is trying to get this woman to level 2. We know how much JD can mean, especially in the early game. But instead of Gullyd going for our usual just castle age and transition here, he's gonna go make sure that his boys at the back here, professional scouts being upgraded, everybody's being redirected onto food here, and barracks popping out first. Now, usually what makes Zushi so strong is the fact that they can get their stable up pretty quickly, and they can go and snack on these deer all around the map. But the problem is, when you're thinking about snacking on the map and you're playing against a civilization like JD, you know that there's going to be a knight on the way. I was about to say usually, but
Yeah.
Corvinus hasn't queued that bad boy up. But with JD, he's ready to roll.
And with a second stable ready to roll, most likely, yeah, going professional scouts as well. I like how he went woman at arms instead of archer. However, JD Archer is called. I do not know the names. Uh, to basically attempt and frontline the spears and potentially even melt them. And the deer striking has even started already. Nice.
Yeah,
She's making her way to the gold, I presume?
yes.
JD? Yeah.
Just to make sure that there's a little bit of pressure over here. She will come home and see a very, very empty spot here. Sees that first professional scout. And now with the first spearman... Oh, the third
Deep
spearman
down?
popping out. We know that Corvinus is very happy having a few knights with this. Because he wants to be able to ensure that he's just going to keep his opponent in his base. And deny these here. Because right now, what is going to make Zushi quite strong is the fact that they're able to freely go for the deer. But JD is just going to stop those spearmen from being able to take down those knights as they usually would have the freedom to. You see that scout getting intercepted, and Gullyd, he needs to stay on top of this, because if he starts losing those, it's going to be really hard to get them back, because this is not looking like a healthy food source right now.
Yeah, and luckily for Gullyd as well, his meditation gardens are quite well positioned, and he has another potentially food source in the back with the berries, as well as the second gold if he ever wants to expand that way. So that kind of helps him into defending himself and pumping out more spears to counter the knights and the scouts that Corvinus is now producing to snack on deers himself.
So when I usually think about knights and I think about Corvinus, I think of a man who's very happy running around and raiding. So with Corvinus, he's got his 2 knights and he's got 9 scouts. So he's just planning on taking every single deer from this map. Gullyd seems to have accepted his fate. He's realized, okay, I have 1 scout left and most of them got picked up, and trying to pick up the little scraps that Corvinus is leaving him. You can see now with the tower being built, he realizes I need to make a play in a different direction, and it might not be optimal for me. Corvinus with his 9 scouts though, it does feel kind of scary, because you just know all those deer are being picked up non-stop, and at the back of the base here, the knights are starting to pump out. You can see this constant stream of food. It's like a little line when you accidentally rally your villagers across the map and don't build a mining camp. This is what it kind of looks like on the minimap, but it's just men bringing home snacks for the villagers.
Yeah, it's basically like a line of ants on the ground, like going to pick up the sugar cube. I like that. But yeah, with this amount of scouts, even after all of the deer packs have been consumed and safely under Corvinus' TC, uh, basically being turned into more knights, then they will provide massive amounts of vision all around the map, from any sneaky plays if we go up to castle for relics to potential flanks to just about everything. Like, vision is key, especially with the horsemen that Gullyd is now producing.
You can see with Gullyd getting horsemen, and it might not be the optimal situation to go for when you know you're playing into knights, but looking at this, Gullyd realizes I need to find a different way to get food, and he sees they're standing on top of my deer, so he tries to send his scouts a little bit deeper, but they're also just getting picked up. It feels like Corvinus just has too many resources already, and the units that are now fighting, it seems like a desperate plea from Gullyd3ck3l to try and get something done. But the numbers from Corvinus just is so scary right now. Gullyd3ck3l now looking towards going castle himself. Even though he's quite low on food, like you mentioned, the berries, he's got berries here. He's going to be able to sit back and eat from those berries, but it won't last a very long time.
Yeah, and another issue when you're losing fights, especially against JD, is the fact that JD becomes stronger. So even if you're like, oh, I lost a scout, oh, I lost 2 spearmen, suddenly you have a JD with a gun bashing at your base, and that's not gonna be fun. So that's also something that Gullyd has to keep in mind, the ticking time bomb that is JD.
Yeah, she does get scarier as time goes on, but the problem is, Shaolin Monastery gets clicked up, but no villagers allocated to the job just yet. It may have been a tiny little misclick, because we can see he's running around with his spears, just trying to make something happen and trying to shut down anything. Honestly, if I have 10 knights, 9 spears aren't going to scare me that much. And that's the problem. The moment Gullyd ages up, he's going to get attacked. And these spearmen are not in the position to actually protect him. So now with the knights looking straight at the gold villagers, there might be some fatalities.
Yeah, especially with Corvinus having such immensely good timing, just on the age up, snacking on about 3, 4, 5 villagers. They got snacked. Oh,
That
an
was
immediate
quick.
FF gets called. GG.
Yeah, Corvinus and Gullyd, they're probably one of our closer matchups for today. So with these two being matched up against one another, you don't think that Corvinus is going to run away with the series too easily, but it doesn't feel like Gullyd is going to be making it too simple. I mean, Corvinus did get JD, and he feels very comfortable in a raiding civ. So we can see Corvinus, once he got control of the food, it was tickets for our player. So, yeah, the first one goes over to Mr. Corvinus. And guys, I am currently controlling all the things, so I'm going to be switching back into the other scene. But if I do miss something, it is definitely on me. So let's switch back. And as I look at my scene, I realize, Corvinus, I don't even have his name here. But guys, I want you to imagine his name on the left side until Tommy can fix my silly little mistake. Now, what rank? Well, I see in the chat as well. What rank is Corvinus? I believe. Let's quickly look at the ATR. Now, the ATR sheet is the sheet that we have to try and see what their current tournament ranking is. Right now, Corvinus is rank 17, and it might be a little bit different for Mr. Gullyd because he hasn't been playing as many tournaments. So Gullyd, I'm trying to find him. He's rank 33 at the moment, so he is quite far below. But Corvinus, I don't think in most ranked matches, because that's what the whole tournament is about, right? We want to make sure that they're playing the maps that they're used to in these situations, and these should be the civilizations that they're comfortable with on the maps that they usually play. We're actually expecting to see quite a few mirror matches as well. So these guys, oh, and look at that, Corvinus puts the names back up on the screen for me. Thank you. And now we can actually understand who we are watching. But the next map will be Cliffside. So Cliffside, a map that I absolutely love as an English player. How do you feel about Cliffside in general when it comes to raiding ability, etc.?
Well, Cliffside, admittedly, if you manage to get control of like your part of the map, it's kind of easy to defend because of all the walls and just small little walls that you can just shut off entire parts of the map. I quite like it. It is not fun playing against English and just having longbows shooting you from the other side of the map, and you just having a ticking time bomb when the game starts, where you're like, oh, at like 3.5, 4 minutes, I'm gonna have a longbow shooting at my villager from his base.
Mm-hmm.
It is not as enjoyable, but as a Malian myself, thankfully the Ilaulus are here to protect me. The javelins. Yeah.
Now, in our next matchup, and I know we're not displaying that right now, but we have French versus Japanese. Now, for those of you who haven't been playing ladder a lot, we've been seeing a lot of sneaky plays in Dark Age coming out of Japan. Now, especially when you're playing against a civilization like French, you do want to shut down this gold pretty quickly. Now, Gullyd needs to be aware of this. He knows that Japanese on the ladder hasn't been too nice to anyone. So, on a civilization that is very gold dependent, he's going to need to scout this out, and that's exactly what he does. We see now, let's quickly see his vision. He does see the barracks, so he'll know this is coming. Let's see if he responds to this instantly, which will mean that he will most likely try and get as many villagers as possible on the gold to get what he needs for that early game. The problem is, this can snowball so quickly. So now let's go see what the sheep loot is going to look like. With Gullyd3ck3l's scout not really getting an optimal scouting pattern, you can see he didn't shift like this guy. He didn't expect to be running into a barracks this quickly. I want to point out that Japan, they have two choices in the early game. they can invest in either a samurai, which is a little bit more expensive, just like your usual men-at-arm. But then you can also just go for your usual old cheap spearman, which is going to be the weapon of choice here for Corvinus. Now Gullyd, let's go see what he's done. He tries to put down a tower pretty early on, but the spearman is already here and makes this a little bit harder. So with the tower play, it makes it a little bit safer because now he will be able to stay on gold, but it does still make it quite suboptimal because you've just spent a lot of wood getting this up and you've delayed yourself significantly.
Yeah, and it's also the fact that the gold is pretty forward, so even with the tower, which has a suboptimal placement, primarily you want it on the forward or at the side of the gold so it can protect more evenly. Any archers of the side on Corvinus can pressure the gold even further, especially if you build an outpost of your own, which Corvinus is gonna do. I didn't expect that, and to be honest, I had no idea Japanese could create samurai in the Dark Age. None at all.
Now, Japan
Which
actually...
comes to shows how much I've not played Japanese.
Japan is definitely a civ that has now seen some prominence in the early game. They used to... They had quite a few changes, and honestly, that's why we're sitting here and not playing here, because we might not be informed, especially what these guys can do at that level. But now, getting those 2 villages idle all the way over here to build a tower, it equates basically to spending as many resources as you did over here on getting this one. Now Gullyd, he will be able to get enough for the age up, but not enough for his first night. As these guys will be dropping off, we can see he needs 7 gold. But luckily for him, there's a backwards gold he can be thinking about. But right now, I think his focus is going to be on trying to find a way to get rid of this so that he can keep making knights. Now, we need to see if Gullyd has been able to scout his side. He doesn't know about the backwards gold just yet. He has not been able to snack on the little vision over here. You do have the ability to see a little bit of the mining spots in the fog of war. But I don't know if Gullyd has been having the free time to think about that just yet. Because Corvinus, he's in the driver's seat yet again.
Yeah, and especially with an outpost right by your door, which, apart from the constant notifications for attack on the mining camp, also provides copious amounts of vision for Corvinus, who's gonna go ahead and age up with a Kura storehouse. Is also an passive threat because it can get upgraded to deal more damage, it can get reinforced, it can be used as an entry point to just barely destroy your outhouse without the TC having the ability to do anything, which is quite unlucky, to be honest. This is gonna help Corvinus massively and make the situation more difficult for Gullyd, who's gonna age up with a School of Cavalry as per usual.
Yeah, this School of Cavalry is not going to have the usual oomph we see out of it, though, because as we know, a School of Cavalry usually is accompanied by a wonderful, wonderful, beautiful knight coming out of it. But now he opts for the archers, and the fact that he went ahead and repaired this outpost. When talking to the top players, they say whenever people do something, it's for a reason. Now, I'm not going to group Gullyd into the group of people who will be making every decision intentionally, but maybe because he feels like, oh, this is the right move. And that's just because Gullyd is a little bit of a newer player, is a little bit of a younger player on the block, and he might see the other players repairing this tower and trying to get it back to full. And this could be for anyone else. I would say this is 100% because he's going to go and try to fight back for this gold instead of going for the back one. But because it's Gullyd, he might be like, okay, I'm doing this because I think this is the right choice. But now, let me go on the back gold instead. So, that little bit of wasted wood here is usually what someone would point out as, this is not something that the top players would do because they won't be wasting a villager's time and they won't be wasting every bit of wood that they could be getting from here. So yeah, this is just something that we're going to chalk up to. Gullyd, trying to find exactly what the right move is here. The villager, again, coming forward to try and repair this. But the archers should be able to back him up right now. But let's go look at Japan. With with Japan going finally for a Kura storehouse, I'm actually really happy to see this because for the last few professional games, we've been seeing only Shinobis coming out. But the safe food source,
Come on, they're fun.
they're so
Shinobis
fun.
are awesome. I love those little guys that just go and stab your villager and just kill them faster than a knight. I certainly do not hate the fact that they have a teleport as well and can disguise as your own villager. Actually, I like that mechanic. I'm not gonna lie, but I had to be sold for a second there.
It definitely does have a bigger impact on people like you and me. But sneaky villagers appearing on the side of the map, I feel like these guys, they see it and they're like, hey, girl, you're looking a little bit sus. Now, I want to point out, Gullyd did get himself a horseman, but he's trying to desperately find that little bit of damage. And Corvinus is just sitting back and letting the usual things do the talking. We can see with the scout here is he found that perfect angle to not get hit by the TC. And the spearman being inside the outpost, it being fortified as well, does just allow him to sit back and do exactly this. Now, Gullyd has invested into a knight, while Corvinus is going towards castle. So, French knights, they're great, especially in large numbers, but fighting against the samurai, a mounted samurai at that, is going to prove quite tough.
Yeah, they are quite scary, from their quite good base stats to their reflective armor. I believe it can also negate the damage from the charge, and the scout goes out, unlucky for Corvinus. That's a lot of vision spent. So yeah, seeing as Corvinus has produced nothing else in the feudal age apart from villagers, who is also just about to age up, although the raid is on the way. He spots it just in time.
And he does get
Nothing
some idle
happens.
time. The idle time is important, but it's not necessarily going to be changing the outcome too much, because as we see now, the outpost has now since been fortified. And these archers will be quite annoying. He's trying to delay this as much as possible, and I don't think Gullyd realizes how perfectly timed this attack was, because now Corvinus just that was his delay. This was the one thing that kept the floating gate from being started already. But he needs to keep this pressure up without investing too much more. I say this and he's going for professional scouts, so he's still going to go and try to get a little bit of pressure out on the rest of the map. The knight being here, he's a little bit low. He does not want to be charging.
Goes down.
He does get a Vil, but I still think it's worth it for Corvinus.
Yeah, I think in the long term it's gonna be worth, simply because of the fact that although Gullyd has invested heavily into feudal, the fact that he's now going into professional scouts while Corvinus is aging up is gonna basically mitigate this upgrade that Gullyd is taking. Also the fact that mounted samurais are coming and they are on the way, and that's something Gullyd needs to address one way or another, because obviously crossbows are not an option in feudal age.
I was going to say, he's going to need a stable for that now, but Corvinus, he knows, and he's aware. He's like, oh yeah, let me just quickly get that stable up and running and start making that samurais, because it doesn't matter how many archers you put in front of it, it's still going to struggle. Now with that ticking, instantly you see Gullyd moving to a little bit of a safer location, him probably realizing, okay, this is going to start to get a bit harder. He's gotten professional scouts, but at the same time, he's going for the deer out on the map. And we know how much mounted samurai love running into villages scattered around the map. Now with these guys standing at the front here, I don't think Gullyd knows what he needs to do at this moment. Do I stay here? Do I go back? But just like that, the mounted samurai is out, and he's going to start to be able to do damage. And clicking on here, he didn't need to get any upgrades just yet. And we can see the scouts, he's shift-click them, but those shift-clicking, they can be so pesky, because sometimes we just forget that they're going to take the shortest path, which is usually right through a TC.
Yeah, that's something I've also fallen victim to be honest. Just shift-clicking and then suddenly, where's my scout? And I'm just looking at nothing. Now Corvinus is on Castle Age, and even though he's not ahead, I do not remember the word at the moment, in both villager and in military production, he will eventually close that gap. And with Japanese being able to get both gold and stone at the same time, he's able to freely upgrade any outposts and defend against any raids that might come, while also going out on the map slowly but steadily and gathering more and more resources. So Gullyd has to do something to answer, and I am not sure if he has an idea what that answer might be.
Yeah, the thing is, Corvinus is being a little bit frisky here because he knows that his opponent does have professional scouts, and there's a deer pack here. Any scout that runs by, they're gonna know about this deer pack. But Corvinus knows the best offense or the best defense is a great offense, and that's exactly why these mounted samurais are gonna be going into where it matters. Gullyd now, he's not noticing just yet, and the samurais are inside.
That's a nice
his line.
raid.
Just like that. Gullyd loses a handful of villages already, and these guys are barely taking any damage now. They're looking straight at the wood line.
That was a perfect raid and a perfect body block against the villagers going into the outpost, as another might go down. But on the other side of the map, Gullyd is raiding and did get another villager kill. Gullyd's army is atop of the mounted samurais, and the TC is firing quite rapidly. I think one might go down. Potentially, never mind. No, he's gonna live to see another day.
He's also made of steel. That's a big issue.
Yeah, being a samurai does have its perks, to be honest. But another raid is coming on the wood line of Corvinus' side. Although so many stuff is happening at the moment.
Now,
More villagers dying on the side of Corvinus. That's good for Gullyd, to be honest. Obviously.
Now, what I want you guys to notice here is Gullyd is still ahead in villages, and for all of you Chads in the chat, you know why that is. French does have faster villager production, but that is going to be negated if another horde of samurais make it into any of these resource lines. And again, when you're looking over here on the gold, you can see these guys, they're happily getting some gold, right? But there's only one tower to protect the hordes that you see over there. And Gullyd doesn't look like he's ready to go to castle just yet. He's staying in feudal, he's trying to do some damage, and this knight is now going to spot exactly what is happening here at the back. But still, we have all this free gold over here for Corvinus, these villages untouched, and him slowly getting his eco upgrades and getting melee armor between all of this, just to make sure that those knights don't cause him any more headaches. So these knight numbers are going to start to drop, and Gullyd is going to need to find a way to actually respond to this. We now see he's decided it's time for the outpost to go down. This thing has been reinforced with steel. So it's going to take quite a while, and it's going to allow those mounted samurai to choose where they're going to go next.
Yeah, and especially with those frisky villagers that have just been spotted, they also offer an alternative way to raid and have an easier point of access into Gullyd's base. Because normally you expect the opponent's army to come from basically his base, your opponent's base, and not from your side of the map. So cutting down the travel time of the military troops from Corvinus from about 30 seconds to 10, 15 is gonna help him. Although Gullyd is now pushing at the center with a good mass of spears and archers, and some knights going around and raiding.
Now this is absolutely fantastic from Gullyd. Not a showing we saw from his previous game. Even though Corvinus is not, I don't think he has his steering wheel out just yet. He might still feel okay. I'm okay. I'm in castle. Gullyd is struggling to stay ahead with this, but Corvinus needs to be careful. This can go either way at the moment. He needs to take a good fight, and he needs to clean up this huge mass of army. Because Gullyd looks like he's committed to this feudal no matter what. He keeps making units. We see 3 knights in queue. At this point, this is close to being a castle age that he could have chosen between, and he keeps going for it. Now with these knights, they did probably try to find a little bit of damage, but it looks like the attention has been pulled back to the base. And that's what Corvinus does best. He knows where your weaknesses are, and with all the pings going around the map, because Corvinus is causing havoc.
Your base.
Oh, he doesn't realize. No.
He hasn't spotted it. Oh no. Well, there goes the villager lead. That was a good cut for Corvinus' side and quite unlucky. for Gullyd because he lost so many villagers. And although Corvinus had made a Shinto shrine so many minutes ago and had already taken 2 relics, it has been spotted and it's gonna get burned down. And so many notifications going around and raids and fights and villagers dying from both sides. Although at the moment Corvinus is ahead in eco units. A big raid is gonna happen, a big fight, not even raid, is gonna happen inside Corvinus' base. He's gonna try and save as many villagers as he can, while the TC is firing like hell.
This TC is trying his best to shut this down, but even if Corvinus loses 10 more villagers, he might still be fine, because as we can see here, the food transition, it's automatically done. These units, a lot stronger than the ones now on Gullyd's side, and this commitment from Gullyd was probably one of those last hurrahs to try and do some damage while he can, because he may have realized that half his economy has just disappeared.
Yeah, and now Gullyd is in a severe lack of food, and apart from gold, what friends need desperately is food, because they have faster villager production, so they need more food per minute, as well as the knights having, if I remember correctly, 100 food per night, and so more and more idle time on the side of Gullyd is being enforced by Corvinus, as he's just right-click right across the map, with the priest healing the troops that get damaged. I don't think this is looking good for Gullyd, to be honest.
Yeah, no, this looks like Gullyd is about to tap out. This man has had enough, but now there are very, very chunky Castle Age units with lots of upgrades standing in your base, just causing idle time and causing you not to get any further in this game. Most of his economy, or half of his economy, is idle. And this is just not going to spell too well for him. We can see the one desperate villager getting a little bit of gold, running for his life already. And at the same time, he knows he needs to make some magic happen. He's trying to get a raid done. He does pick up a few villagers, but that 27 villager kills on Corvinus' side is just going to be too hard for him to deal with. And we can see here, this is a man who's desperate. He's all the way out here on the map, and I don't think Corvinus is the kind of guy who will miss a dead boar on his minimap.
This is not gonna go well for Gullyd. That's, I think, his last food source. His last food gathering villagers. Did they get spotted? They did get spotted.
Oh, and that's going to be another 7 or 8 vills going down. Even if they start to run away now, these guys, they have baskets of food in their hand. Oh, they left Fred, but Fred, he taps out.
Yeah, well, a very nicely game played by both sides, but Corvinus came out on top yet again. Admittedly, he has a very, very good knowledge of where to strike and when to strike.